So, why is everybody all of a sudden talking about Taiwan and the year 2026? Well, it's not just another year on the calendar. It's really shaping up to be a huge turning point. A moment where Taiwan's economy and its entire tech scene could pivot in a brand new, really profound direction. Okay, let's dive right in and unpack what makes 2026 so incredibly critical.
To really get the story of 2026, you've got to see the puzzle first. On one hand, you have the Tsinghua Institution for Economic Research, CIER, and they're forecasting this really strong, almost booming 4.14% GDP growth. But then, on the other hand, Taiwan's own central bank is projecting a much more careful, a more moderate 2.68%. That is a massive gap between two expert opinions.
So what gives? Are we looking at a boom year or just kind of steady, cautious growth? That is the big question we're going to get to the bottom of in this explainer. Because that split, right there, it reveals this fascinating story about a nation that's really at a strategic crossroads.
To get to the heart of all that optimism, you have to look at the engine that powers not just Taiwan, but honestly, so much of the world's technology, its semiconductor industry, which is now being totally supercharged by the AI revolution.
The big headline for 2026 is this: TSMC, the world's leading chipmaker, is going to be in full mass production of its revolutionary 2-nanometer chips. And look, this isn't just some tiny incremental update. No, this is a massive technological leap. And it's what's propping up that super optimistic 4.14% forecast.
Now, what's so cool about this is what 2-nanometer actually means in the real world. So compared to the 3-nanometer chips, which are already incredibly powerful, this new process can give you 15% more performance for the exact same amount of power. Or, and this is the huge part, it can use 35% less power to get that same performance. Plus, you can cram way more transistors into the same tiny space. It's a total game changer for literally everything, from massive AI data centers all the way down to the next phone in your pocket.
And we're not talking about some small-scale lab experiment here. By 2026, TSMC is projected to be churning out 60,000 of these super-advanced 2-nanometer wafers every single month. That number just perfectly illustrates the massive, massive scale of this transition, and it's why so many people are betting on an economic boom.
Okay, so the tech story is incredibly strong, right? It's a slam dunk, but that doesn't quite explain the central bank's caution. So where does that uncertainty, that more conservative number, actually come from? Well, the answer isn't inside the factory. It's out in the complex world of global trade. So let's shift gears and talk about a major new piece of the puzzle, a landmark trade agreement between the US and Taiwan that is completely rewriting the rules of the game. And it's creating both huge opportunities and some brand new challenges. The deal pretty much rests on two main pillars. First up, it sets a flat 15% tariff for most goods. Now, this is crucial because it finally levels the playing field for Taiwan's traditional industries, putting them on equal footing with rivals like Japan and South Korea. But it's the second pillar where things get really, really interesting, especially for the tech world. It all boils down to something called the Section 232 clause. Just think of it as a U.S. trade rule that lets them put tariffs on things for national security reasons. But here's the kicker. Taiwan managed to secure a special deal, kind of like a golden ticket, that protects its most critical industry, semiconductors, from these potentially damaging tariffs.
So here's the bottom line. This trade deal is a huge, undeniable win for the semiconductor industry. But for more traditional sectors, that 15% tariff, even if it levels the field, is still a pretty big cost to absorb. This creates a kind of split economy. You've got a supercharged tech sector on one side and a more challenged traditional sector on the other. And that, right there, is the key to understanding those two completely different economic forecasts we saw at the very beginning.
So we have this incredible powerhouse technology and a game-changing trade deal. But is that really the whole story for 2026? Not quite. If you look a little closer, you'll see there's a deeper, much more fundamental shift happening across a whole bunch of industries.
What we're really seeing is a transition away from just pure raw innovation towards something more mature, a total system-wide upgrade that's focused on governance and integration. And honestly, there's no better place to see this in action than in the world of smart healthcare.
Just take a look at this. By 2026, AI in hospitals isn't just some cool new tool to make things more efficient. It's actually becoming a core part of the clinical process. Data security is moving way beyond just checking a compliance box. It's about building true systemic resilience.
Data standards are finally breaking down those old silos to create one big interconnected ecosystem. And remote care? It's shifting from being a handful of small pilot projects to a fully institutionalized permanent system.
This quote from CIO Taiwan just sums it up perfectly. The entire mindset is changing. It's no longer enough to just manage information. Now it's about strategically building an entire data-driven economy, whether you're talking about healthcare, manufacturing, or finance.
Okay, so let's bring all these threads together. What this all means is that 2026 represents a real strategic turning point for Taiwan. It's the year the nation starts to shift its focus from simply creating amazing new technologies to mastering how to govern them.
You see this exact same pattern playing out across the board. Generative AI is moving from being an experiment to needing real governance. Cybersecurity is going from basic compliance to building true resilience. Data is evolving from a simple standard to a full-blown ecosystem. And new ways of doing things like remote healthcare are going from pilot projects to becoming institutionalized parts of the system.
And that right there is the real story of 2026. The whole debate between 4.14% and 2.68% growth kind of misses the deeper point. The crucial shift isn't just about the speed of innovation. It's about building the mature, resilient systems you need to govern and sustain that innovation for decades to come.
For decades, Taiwan has been an absolute master of technological production. But now it's on a path to mastering technological governance. And as it makes this critical pivot, the real question isn't just how it's going to reshape its own future, but how it's going to redefine the global technological landscape that all of us depend on.